Racing Update is brought to you by Bet365, the world's favourite online betting brand.
Imagine what you could be buying instead.
Well, what a day it is at Royal Randwick. Mentioned before 3 Group 1s with the Epsom, of course, over the famous Randwick Mile.
Of course, the Premier Stakes is the last chance for potential Everest runners to show they should be right there in a fortnight. It is just 14 days away. There are still 4 spots available. Daily Telegraph journalist Shayne joins us from the newsroom to talk all things racing. Good morning, Shayne.
Good morning, Julie. Morning, Timmy. Well, it's grand final weekend in the footy codes, but it's probably the semi-finals for horse racing because, as you mentioned, this is really the last stop for any horse that wants to force its way into the Everest in a couple of weeks' time because the field is almost set. It's not completely set. There's still a few little things that have to happen in between then and acceptance time, but it's getting very close. You wouldn't want to be left out without a horse.
Yeah, and it's a great day of racing as well. The Gym Crack, the Breeders' Plate for the 2-year-olds. You've got the Epsom Mile, you've got the Flight Stakes, the Dulcify, the Metrop, and of course the Premier. It's a huge day.
Absolutely. Well, I suppose you mentioned the 2-year-olds, all of them having their first start today. Some of these owners would be going to the races thinking, are they going to be in Golden Slippers and Everest in years to come? And they look a pretty good bunch, actually. And obviously with the Epsom and the Metrop, very historic races, a big mile and a big 2,400-metre handicap that could have repercussions for later in the spring, even Melbourne Cups and things like that. But I do think most eyes will be on the Premier because, as I say, there's some horses in there that really have to step up if they're going to get into the Everest. And of course, we've got the Everest favourite going around in the race as well. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes right across the board.
Well, let's talk about the Everest. And of course, during the week, 2 shock announcements with the reigning champion Giga Kick and also Sunshine in Paris both ruled out.
It's very terrible for Sunshine in Paris's connections because obviously she forced her way into the Everest with that brilliant win over Espiona, and you just wonder how they'll feel if Espiona makes the Everest and wins it, knowing that they beat that horse so easily in the Shirako. But look, it's not a career-ending injury by any means. I mean, she'll have a spell and she'll be back bigger and better in the autumn, and who knows what she'll do from there. But you know, to come so close to getting into an Everest and then to not be there is such a shame for everybody.
Yeah, and Godolphin have 2 runners, of course. James Harron, he's picked up, he has the Midas touch, doesn't he, like Giga Kick last year. And Cylinder's run last week looked fantastic, and Cylinder will run in the James Harron bloodstock slot in the Everest.
Absolutely. Well, Cylinder's greatest quality, I suppose, is his bravery. Look, he had a pretty torrid run there in the Golden Rose, but he kept fighting. He was the same at Caulfield first up. A lot of people were saying that he was disappointing, but he was just so brave. I mean, he wasn't 100%. He's the type of horse who could get into the Everest, and all Godolphin horses in the past have run well, even some of the horses that people haven't given much chance to. So they're trained to the minute, and Cylinder's the type of horse who could definitely beat more home than him because he's got such a big ticker.
What about the Moya last night, Imperatriz? It is so hard to believe that we will not see Imperatriz in the Everest.
It's absolutely incredible when you think about it. She's broken 2 course records, her own, by the way, in 2 starts, over 1,000 metres at Moonee Valley. Look, I'd love to see her there. I think every racing fan in Australia and New Zealand would like to see her there because given that she's beaten Giga Kick and she's just such an incredible mare, she's got the best turn of foot in racing just about, you would wonder how she wouldn't be in the finish in the Everest. But apparently, look, the owners, they own the horse. They want to keep her in Victoria and it's up to them what they do. But unless there's some offer too good to refuse that comes out from some shareholder that we don't know about, she's not going to be in the Everest.
And Coolmore's still positive about Shinzo, aren't they? I mean, it was first up. It was a very difficult task, wasn't it, to go first up and compete? And you sort of mentioned that if it had won last week and won the Everest of 14 million in 3 races, it did seem lofty ambition.
Well, in some respects, that's a little bit unfair to me. I mean, the horse was running on at the right time. He drew wide and he was always going to have to go back. He started to make ground at the top of the straight, and from the 400 to the 200, he looked like he was going to be in the finish. But subsequently, he dropped out or he didn't finish off. They had a vet inspection. He was graded 2-5 lame. So, I mean, that's a pretty significant excuse for the horse. Apparently, he's pulled up pretty well after that. The farriers have gone over him. He's no problem. He's on a trial on Tuesday in probably the best barrier trial heat you've ever seen at Rose Hill. He's up against horses like In Secret and Buenos Noches, Overpass. So we're going to know more on Tuesday. I'd be very forgiving of the horse in the Golden Rose. It was a big ask, of course, but look, when you're 2.5 lame, I think you can go home with an excuse.
Yeah, just quickly, also Gay Waterhouse is very confident that she'll get 2 runners in the Everest Hawaii 5.0 and alcohol-free, of course, running in today's Premier. But don't forget, Lost and Running. John O'Shea's Lost and Running is in the Premier too. You just never know.
Yeah, and that's the thing, Jules. The other year, like last year, obviously got scratched before the Everest, but the year before performed poorly in the shorts, did well in the Premier and came 4th in the Everest, Shayne.
Well, I don't know why people aren't talking about Lost and Running. I know you can look at the form guide and see that he was a bit disappointing first up, but he was 5 and 6 wide the whole way. He won the Premier last year. He ran 4th in the Everest, as you mentioned. He was favourite for the Everest a year ago, but was scratched on the morning of the race. So, look, it's all up to Lost and Running today. He probably has to win, but he's a pretty good horse.
What about you last week with Militarise? You finally turned the corner. You finally turned the corner.
Well,
and Julie and I, neither of us listened to you. Yeah, there it is. Militarise winning. We're a bit done for time. Have you got a tip? Can you get us back in the winners list again today?
Yeah, I do, Timmy. I'll stick with Chris Waller in the Metrop. Mr. Waterville, race 9, number 17. I really think this horse will make the Melbourne Cup field, so let's look out for him today. No weight, peaks today.
There you go. Write that one down, Shayne Cass. Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
This racing update is brought to you by Bet365, the world's favourite online betting brand.
Imagine what you could be buying instead.